see what we got. We've got the jail. We have Claudia. Look at that. Who do we have doing? We have Shelley Stevens doing a plea.
No.
Okay.
And you need to do care updates first for mental health.
Let me do Catherine McCraw. She's not on there. Michael Diaz, not on there.
Glenn Adams.
Glenn Adams, not on there. We have James McClure. Who's that? Karen Ditch.
Karen Ditch is probably on there for Jim.
For who?
She probably, I wonder if she's doing Glenn Adams. I don't know. No, so she's
Yeah. You confuse those?
Jason McClure shouldn't be online. He's in jail.
James McClure's online.
Maybe it's his dad. That's a 17.032.
Okay.
With John Hunter Smith.
All right. There's Catherine. Let's do Catherine's client first. Could we have Cameron Johnson, please? They were. One of this. All right, Mr. Johnson, if you would raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give me the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Oh, yes.
Is your true name Cameron Jacoby Johnson?
Yes.
And do you understand you have two cases pending? One charges you with both charge you with criminal trespass. Do you understand that?
Yes.
You can put your hand down. And do you understand in each case, you and your attorney have worked out plea agreements?
Yes.
And have you had enough time to go over each case with your attorney?
Yes.
And do you understand we're doing this plea electronically? Your attorney is online with us right now.
Yes.
Are you okay doing the plea that way?
Yes.
To the two charges of criminal trespass, how do you plead?
Guilty.
Accept plead guilty in each case. In one of the cases, you'll be found guilty, sentenced to 45 days in jail. You'll get credit for 59 days of back time. In the other case, you'll be sentenced to 29 days in jail, and you'll get credit for 43 days back time. Both cases will result in you being time served as of right now, okay?
Okay.
Do you have any questions about anything?
No.
Okay. Good luck. Thank you. See ya. Now we have Diaz is one of them, right? Could we have Jimmy Johnson?
Jimmy Johnson?
Not the coach.
Mark?
All right, Mr. Johnson, if you would raise your right hand and be sworn. You swear or affirm testimony about to give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Is your true name Jimmy Bradley Johnson IV?
Yes, sir, with a Y.
Which one, the Jimmy or the Bradley?
Both, sir.
Okay. If you can take your hand down. Do you understand you have 2 cases charging you with criminal trespass?
Yes, sir.
And have you had enough time to go over each case with your attorney?
Yes, sir.
And do you understand we're doing this plea electronically and your attorney is online with us right now?
Yes, sir.
Are you okay doing the plea that way?
Yes, sir, that's fine with me.
To each of these charges, how do you plead?
I plead guilty as charged or as no contest.
They want either guilty or not guilty, so.
Guilty is fine.
All right. I accept your plea guilty in each case, find you guilty in each case. You'll be sentenced to 15 days in jail in each case. You'll get credit for at least 32 days in each case. The result of the plea is that you'll be time served as of right now, okay?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions about anything?
No, sir, no questions in particular.
All right. Good luck. Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you,
sir.
Your
Thank you very much.
Good luck.
Great.
Thanks, Mr. Diaz.
You're welcome.
Jason, Deshaun Jones is correct, but I'm not going to be able to hear him. It's not our case when we look at. So they may say that more time and I would do that. They need for 4 days. I think it's the Deshaun Jones, if you say for 9. There are.
Court 4.
For 9.
We have Deshaun Jones, please. I say that. Let's see. Lawyer's not on here yet. I don't see Glenn Adams. Is Karen work for him, you think?
I would ask Karen, because I think that's more likely.
Okay. Let's find out. There he is. All right. We were gambling that you were Glenn.
I am Karen Deach is graciously allowing me to use her computer while I'm on with Suzanne Wooten on a mediation on mine.
Gotcha. All right. And we have Mr. Jones here, all right? Mr. Jones, if you would raise your right hand and be sworn. You swear or affirm testimony about to give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, Your Honor.
Is your true name Deshaun Jones?
Yes.
And you put your hand down. And do you understand you have 2 cases pending? One of them charged you, or both charged you with failure to ID. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And it looks like y'all worked out plea agreements. Is the plea agreement for, is it to,
It's to revoke in 4 days with back time sufficient to cover the days in jail.
okay. Is it a petition to adjudicate?
They are both petitions to adjudicate. Yes, sir.
All right. Mr. Jones, you understand you were previously placed on deferred for these 2 charges.
Yes, sir.
And the state has filed a petition to adjudicate you, alleging that you violated your probation. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
And it looks like y'all worked out plea agreements for 4 days in jail with credit for 4 days. Do you understand that?
Yes, sir.
To each of these petitions to adjudicate, how do you plead, true or not true?
True.
Accept your plea true in each case, find the allegations are true in each case. You'll be adjudicated, found guilty, sentenced to 4 days in jail in each case. You'll get credit for at least 4 days in each case. In addition, I'm gonna go ahead and waive court costs so that you won't have anything holding you in jail, okay?
Yes, sir.
You have any questions about anything else?
No, sir.
Anything else?
Oh, thank you, Judge. Be excused.
Yep, we'll see you later. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Bye-bye.
Phillips, is that what you said?
Yes, Brian Leslie Phillips.
I don't have a docket sheet for the mental health ones.
I can tell
Is there
you.
just 3 of them?
Yes.
Just one case each?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
And I forwarded you the Claire's 2 police reports.
Tony Phillips. Can we have Mr. Phillips, please? I need
Only
Kara.
Claire.
Claire Tony. Is that it? All right, this is Mr. Phillips, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I do have a copy of the mental health assessment. I will consider it for this hearing. Did you want to call your client to testify?
Yes, please.
If you would, raise your right hand and be sworn. You swear or affirm testimony about to give you the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, sir.
Will you state your name for the record, please?
Ryan Phillips.
And
Ryan
Ryan,
Wester Phillips.
Ryan, you're asking the court for a mental health bond today, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
We've taken care of all of your pending cases, and you are currently in jail regarding an assault of your uncle. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And he's who you were staying with.
Yes, ma'am. I was staying with him.
And you
I have-
understand, it's just hold on. You understand that there's an emergency protective order in place against keeping you away from your uncle.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so you understand that if the judge were to release you today, there would be conditions of your release. But first and foremost, you would have to stay away from your uncle, according to that protective order.
Yes, ma'am.
And you understand that if you're released, you would have to check in on a weekly basis.
To Med Solutions.
Well, no, to the court or their designate, so that they know that you're complying and taking your meds and doing everything you're supposed to do.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I would be compliant with that.
Okay. And I know that we had discussed the possibility of you going to Carrollton Springs when you were released, and you were
Yes, ma'am.
unclear about your insurance situation. But if I've spoken with your father and he's indicated that your insurance would allow for you to go to Carrollton Springs for maybe the next week or so to get your medication and everything straightened out, is that something you still would want to do?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And then you have plans to live in a boarding house type situation once you would be released from Carrollton Springs. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that Johnson's, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. It was number 95 on the boarding list.
Okay. You called quite a few looking for a place. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And your dad is the one that's agreed to transport you to Carrollton Springs. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Or the boarding house. And he can pick you up from the jail later this afternoon after he gets off work. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you think that it would benefit your mental health situation to be out of jail?
Yes, ma'am. Very much.
Okay. And you feel like you do need to get treatment
Yes, ma'am.
that you're not able to get in jail?
No, ma'am.
And is it fair to say that you were not taking care of your mental health like you should have before being arrested?
Yes, ma'am.
And you realize that that needs to be a priority?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I'll pass the witness.
Any questions from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Phillips, you're charged with injury to an elderly person, right? And that's your uncle.
Yes, ma'am.
And like your attorney stated, you are aware there is an EPO out for your uncle and that you're not allowed at his address anymore, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
You stated that you would be living at a boarding house. Where is the boarding house?
It's 7732 Los Gatos, Dallas, Texas. I don't know the zip code though.
No worries. How long can you stay at this boarding house?
As long as I can have, as long as I pay rent every month.
Okay. And do you have a way to pay rent?
I was gonna get a job immediately when I get out of here. I'm pretty persistent about getting a job when I look for one.
What kind of work do you do?
Anything that hires, anything that would apply me to work. I mean, you know, I'm not very picky about work.
Before, so, you know, if for some reason you were not able to make rent at your boarding house, you were staying with your uncle at the time of this offense, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that who, and you've been staying with him off and on for about a year?
Yes, ma'am.
So where else could you potentially go if you're unable to get a job and unable to make rent?
Maybe a shelter, homeless shelter, maybe.
Okay, but
Yeah.
you, before living with your uncle, you weren't living in an apartment and you don't have any property or a home, is that right?
No, ma'am.
And Mr. Phillips, have you ever been diagnosed with a mental health disorder?
Yes. Wait, like also like anxiety or depression?
Yes.
Yes, I have severe anxiety and severe depression. I have PTSD, schizoaffective.
So you've been diagnosed with schizoaffective disorder before?
Yes, ma'am.
When was that?
5-6 years ago.
Okay. And were you ever taking medication for that?
Yes.
And then, however, the months leading up to this offense in particular, you weren't taking medication. Is that correct?
No, ma'am.
And why was that?
I don't know. I just kind of self-medicated myself. I kind of lost track of medication.
And you also reported that you received outpatient treatment at PsyMed Solutions. When was that?
I go to PsyMed Solutions. That's where my psychiatrist is. I go to PsyMed Solutions every 2 weeks, every week. See my psychiatrist.
Were you seeing your psychiatrist in the months leading up to this incident?
No, ma'am.
Okay. When was the last time you saw your psychiatrist?
About 2-3 months ago.
Okay. And why did you quit seeing your psychiatrist?
I kind of felt bad for my uncle paying for it, for my uncle paying for everything.
Okay. So you don't have a way to go back and see your psychiatrist until you get a job or find somebody to help pay for that, right?
I'm pretty sure my dad or my mom would help me pay. Yeah.
However, you can't live with your dad or your mom, is that right?
Yeah, because my dad has a son that's going to college and he doesn't want to jeopardize his college. And my mom, she's about to retire, so yeah.
Okay. And you indicated that, you know, on your mental health assessment that you do also, you know, that you drink a pint of liquor a day. Is that right?
Yes,
And you were actually drinking at the time of this offense,
yes,
even though you do have a conviction for DWI, right?
yes.
Okay. And do you have a car, Mr. Phillips?
No, ma'am, not
Okay.
anymore.
So if you stay at this boarding house, do you have a plan of how you would potentially get to your appointments or anything if that's required?
Most likely my father or the bus or Uber. Whichever one gets me to an appointment.
Okay. Well, we'll pass the witness.
Anything else from the defendant?
No,
Nothing
sir.
else.
Rest?
We rest.
Anything else from the state?
Your Honor, this time we will offer State's Exhibit 1, which is the offense report, the PC affidavit for this offense, and then we would just ask to read in the defendant's criminal history.
Okay. And I have received the offense report, and I will consider it for the purposes here and only. And you may read in the criminal history.
Thank you, Your Honor. So on June 15th, 2016, the defendant was arrested and then put for possession of marijuana less than 2 ounces, put on deferred adjudication probation for 12 months. On May 31st, 2019, the defendant was arrested for public intoxication, Class C misdemeanor. On August 10th, 2020, the defendant was arrested for possession of marijuana and subsequently convicted, where he served 15 days in jail. As his sentence on October 3rd, 2020, the defendant was convicted of driving while intoxicated with a BAC greater than 0.15. He was convicted and sentenced to 15 days in jail. On October 7th, 2020, going along with these 3 offenses, he was also arrested for evading arrest and detention. It was convicted and sentenced to 15 days in jail. And then we have the current offense.
Okay. Anything else?
Nothing else from the state. Will rest and close.
Any argument from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. As you have read the offense report, just the nature of this offense and the assaultive behavior from the defendant raises community safety concerns. The fact that he has received treatment before and continues to not take his medication. The defendant is currently planning on staying at a boarding house that costs money, that costs rent, with no plan on how to get to any of his appointments. His living situation, Your Honor, is pretty iffy. He can only stay there if he can afford to live there. He can't go back to the place where he's been staying for 1.5 years because of the assaultive behavior, Your Honor. He's just escalated. Being every time he's been out and he has been released, he has continually not taken charge of his own condition. And we're afraid that if he does get released, Your Honor, that he's not going to be a good candidate for a mental health bond because he doesn't have any sort of solid plan or commitment to be able to follow through with the bond conditions. And his behavior just keeps escalating. And for that reason, we oppose and ask that you deny this bond.
Well, Mr. Phillips, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna give you a bond. You're gonna have to attend AA twice a week.
Yes, sir.
And I think your problem might be mostly drinking. That seems to be how you're getting in trouble mostly.
Yes, sir.
And so I am gonna go ahead and let you out on a bond though, with the condition that you do AA twice a week. Get into Carrollton Springs.
Yes, sir.
Get a bed there if you can. And get a kickstart to your whole process. It's gonna be hard on you because you don't have a job and you need a job and you need to pay for some stuff. So jump on it and get as much help as you can. You've got to call Tony every week and let her know how you're doing. Okay.
Tony, this one?
Yeah. Yep.
Will I get your number every, I'll get your number when I,
She's going to talk to you here in a minute and let you know how it all works.
Okay.
You'll have to come see me once a month. When you come see me, expect to be drug tested. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Tony's going to explain to you how everything else works.
Okay.
I'll call your dad, Ryan.
Okay.
Hi, Ryan. I'm Tony, as you have found out. And when you get released, you'll find a folder in your property. That folder will contain my card.
Okay.
It has my contact information. Now, I'd like you to call me tomorrow morning so that I know that you made it out all right.
Okay.
Additionally, the minute you get out, you need to be going to Carrollton Springs. You need to make sure you sign a release so that I can verify with them and get a treatment letter for the court, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, and we'll talk more tomorrow, okay?
Yes, ma'am. So I call you from Carrollton Springs or what?
Yes.
Okay.
You can do that. Just let them know, hey, this is my caseworker, show them my card. I need to sign a release for her and get her a treatment letter. It's real easy. They know exactly what I need.
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
All right.
All right. I'll see you next month, okay?
Thank you.
See you, Kara.
Thank you.
All right, let's, who is Shelley's? Is it Becker?
Becker.
Can we have Becker, please?
Hello.
How are you?
Good. How you guys doing today?
Good. Waiting for your lawyer. She's coming on right now.
Yeah, I am.
Hey, there you are.
Hey, how are you, Kyle?
I'm good, Shelly. Tried to call you.
I tried
your
to
office.
answer.
Well, here we are.
Could you hear me? I was pressing the 5 and saying, I'm here, but I
Yeah,
got hung up on.
I can hear you real well.
All right. This is Kyle Michael Becker. Looks like evading arrest charge and bonds $500. Did you want to call your client, testify?
Actually, I was going to call his mother. Is she here?
There's another Kyle Becker online. Let me see.
Okay. Yep. His mother was going to testify to, him where he's coming home afterward.
Gotcha. It's coming on right now. You're muted and we can't see you. No, you're not muted. We still can't see you.
Hello, can you put your picture in?
Hang on.
Yes.
The video button.
Hi there, Beckers. Nice to see you.
Hello.
All right. Did you want to call mom to testify?
Yes, Your Honor. I call Patrice Becker.
If you would raise your right hand and be sworn. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, not the truth, stuff you got?
I do.
Okay. And talk as loud as you can because court reporter's taking down everything you say, okay?
Yes, sir.
You go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, Patrice. I'll keep this short and sweet. Would you tell the court reporter your name and your relationship to Kyle?
My name is Patrice Ann Becker. I am Kyle Michael Becker's mother.
All right. And we've talked about the treatment that Kyle is being released into today. And it's your understanding that it's a 14-day inpatient crew program with LifePath. Is that right?
Yes.
And are you willing to provide transportation for him when he's released for any medical follow-ups, court appointments, announcements, rather, anywhere he basically needs to get to fulfill his obligations to this court?
Absolutely.
And after the successful completion of his treatment at Crew LifePath, will you welcome Mr. Becker back into your home so he has a place to live following treatment?
Yes.
I pass the witness.
Any questions from the state?
Yes, Your Honor. Ms. Becker, was the defendant living with you at the time of this offense?
Not really. He was homeless. He would come and go on our front porch. When the winter weather came, I offered to let him come inside, of course. And that's when things kind of went downhill because he started walking around in the snow. And I felt like for his own safety, that I had to get him help.
But after the winter storm, did he return to being, homeless or just coming in and out, or what was the situation?
he went to a Salvation Army warming station when it was open. And I had to go out of town to help my elderly parents. So I'm not sure where he was. I think he stayed with friends off and on. I'm not sure.
Okay.
He had a health club membership. So I know he went there sometimes. It was 24 hours. I don't know.
How long has he been living in this kind of state of homelessness or
He has, the last time he had an actual lease was an apartment, was in Colorado. And so he's just been hanging out with whoever will have him.
how much contact do you normally have with your son?
He had a cell phone, so I talked to him most days if he needed
I
something.
usually give my mom a hug every night.
It's okay,
Right before I go
Kyle.
to bed. For real.
And
I miss it.
when was he diagnosed with any sort of mental health disorder?
The year was 2014.
And how old was he? Or was he living with you at this time? Like, was he under the age of 18 or was he an adult?
He was staying here, and he's 30. He just turned 35, so he would have been 20, 28, 29, 28.
And when he was diagnosed, did you guys help him with his treatment or medications?
He was taken to the Wysong area. No, I think the first incident, he was in downtown Dallas. He went into a hotel and took a shower in an empty hotel room, and they took him to Wysong, and then they released him after 3 days. And then he had another incident in McKinney, and that's when they took him to Wysong. And while he was there, he went in front of a judge that was like physically on site at the Wysong campus. And they said that he needed to go to the Terrell State Hospital, which he did for 30 days.
And then after this treatment, though, did he come back and live with you? Did you pay for his medications, or has he just been on his own?
He gained 40 pounds on a 136-pound frame. He didn't want to take the medication, and he appeared fine after that. He didn't have any more incidences with law enforcement. And then he moved to Colorado. He was there a couple years, and he was arrested for minor things, trespassing, nothing like violent or criminal per se. And he was in a program at, was it Arapahoe County? He was arrested in El Paso County, which is Colorado Springs, but they had a program in Arapahoe County, and he was deemed incompetent, and they were trying to gain competency for him. And
Inspector, it would be fair, though, for me to say and kind of assume here, though, that you have not ever paid for any of his medications, or, he hasn't really been, under your supervision for the past couple years, right?
He wasn't prescribed medication until recently. And when my family and I went out of town to go on a vacation or something, Kyle went with us. Okay. So, but when he was in McKinney, he wasn't always here. And I don't know where he was. He wasn't here every night.
Okay. We have no further questions for this witness.
Anything else from the defendant?
Yes, Your Honor, I guess because I just want to be sure everyone's clear on the whole circumstances surrounding Mr. Becker. If I could ask Patrice just a couple more questions.
Sure.
So Ms. Becker, I think what the state is getting at is basically who's going to take care of him. And do you believe that this program, this 14-day inpatient, is going to be good for Kyle? And tell me why you believe this, will kind of be a stabilizing event for him.
The research I've done on LifePath is even after the 14-day residential program, it seems like their follow-up is very thorough. They have the counseling. They have if the judge wanted any type of drug testing. I mean, they seem to work well with the courts. So, I mean, it is a great incentive for him to follow through, of course.
All right, thanks. And just because Ms. Mosley and I haven't worked on this case, I'm going to throw this out there using you as my witness here. Is it your understanding that Kyle's being offered a conditional dismissal on this case if he completes his treatment?
Yes, that seemed like a great motivation for him to partake and complete.
Right. And did you and your husband write a letter on the criminal trespassing charge to the, I guess it was the McKinney Police Department, as well as the DAs on that criminal trespassing charge?
We did.
Okay. And it was your understanding that they did not refer that case over, correct?
Yes.
It was, now the charge is just evading. And do you have any insight into why Kyle may have evaded police?
I was not physically here. The police called me when I was out of state.
Ms. Becker, I want to focus you. I just want you to tell me about that past experience very briefly. When Kyle was tased.
In 2014?
Yes, that's what I'm asking about, very briefly.
He was walking to his 10-year high school reunion, and a police officer, I believe, pulled up in the car and was questioning him, but
Your Honor, I'm going to object as to relevance. This happened in 2014, and he's had multiple police encounters since then. So
Well, I'm assuming that he got tased, and the reason you're trying to get to is that he might have evaded because he won't get tased again. Is that what you're trying to say?
Yes, Your Honor, he has a fear. He has a fear.
I got it.
All right.
Well, you wanted me to tell you the brief encounter, but one noteworthy thing that I can't actually get, even though the state attorney general keeps sending me letters saying the McKinney police must release the information. I was just curious, did he get just tased, or did he, there's a word for it when you code out and you like almost die and they have to bring you to the emergency room. I'm trying to find out what happened, because from the night of 2014, my son has never been the same.
All right.
So I know everybody has personal responsibility, but
Right.
you have to look at the cause and effect of things.
All right, Ms. Becker, last thing is just to focus everyone on the Monday that he was picked up. You were on, he was in a hospital on Monday. I may not be using the right word, but you were out of state when it was reported he was trying to break into your home. Well, just before that, would you tell me about your calls to the places where Kyle was, that he was released to, and that he immediately was picked up?
Right. The Frisco Behavioral Health called, even though when I kept trying to talk to the doctor for the 10 days that he was there, please have the doctor call me. Please have the doctor call me. No call was ever returned except 2 social workers. And the day of his release, the social workers called and said, are you picking him up? No, I'm out of state. Okay, well, we're going to Uber him to downtown Dallas. And I said, that's a disaster waiting to happen. And they basically said, well, that's where he wants to go. And then they said they were taking him to McKinney. And I said, how does he go from being under lock and key, prescribed 2 medications, to you're just going to fling the door open? I said, I don't think this is wisdom. And then I said something about Life Path, where they were trying to coordinate him to go there. And I have like 17 different versions of what everybody was saying that day. Nobody wanted to take responsibility, you know, and like they said, oh, well, he said he didn't want to go. And then Victoria at Life Path said, oh, well, we didn't get the paperwork. We wanted to coordinate him, you know.
What I'm getting at is, as you said, you were begging from out of state for them to keep your son under care. And then they took him to a Salvation Army depot. And was that Salvation Army depot open when they dropped him off?
It was the one in McKinney. It's an actual warming shelter. It's not a homeless shelter. He called me from there and sent me a picture and said, I'm out. And I said, well, you know, where are you going to go? I need to have you figure out where you're going to stay. I was trying to reel him back in till I could get back into town.
Yeah.
No, just a second, Kyle. Just a second. All
And
right.
then the next thing, he called and said someone was going to give him a ride. And then he came back to our house, and my daughter let him use the phone, and he said he left his phone.
Okay,
that's the person that gave him a ride.
Ms. Baker, I'm just trying to get bigger stuff, not small details.
Okay.
So I just wanted to allow the judge to hear you talk about the Monday through the Wednesday when he was picked up. You were out of state trying to coordinate his care. And does that sound right?
Yes.
Okay. And he was released and had nowhere to go, but he knew he could come to your house. Is that right?
Yes.
All right. So I'm not gonna have any more questions for you, but I'm gonna talk to Kyle if the judge will let me for a couple seconds.
Does the state have any questions for Ms. Becker?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Do you want to call any more witnesses?
Yes, Your Honor. I'm gonna call Kyle real quick.
All right. If you would raise your right hand and be sworn. You swear or affirm testimony about to give be the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
All right.
All right. Hey, Kyle, I'm gonna ask you to do me a favor and keep your answer short and to the point. I don't want extra details. Is that okay?
Yeah.
All right. We're just trying to get.
Okay?
Yep, you're doing great. We're just trying to get out of here. Want to get the information. However, we don't need a lot of details. So you do understand, or do you understand that you've been offered a conditional dismissal of the evading charge for the successful completion of this 14-day inpatient program?
Yes. Earlier, Patrice mentioned something to that effect to me earlier on the phone, that she had found out about something via Life Path. Yeah.
And are you committed to go into this program and successfully discharging it and getting your dismissal?
Yes, as per my most recent, most previous video conferencing session with one of the other associates from Life Path, then yes, I told her that I'd be willing to give their program a chance. So yeah, I guess we'll check that out.
Perfect. When I talked to you, you had a lot of big plans for your future, and it sounded like we just needed some stabilization. And then you plan to move on and have a productive career in one of several areas, right?
Yeah. This place is top notch, 5 stars. And let me tell you guys, some days is donuts and coffee. Some days, is donuts and coffee.
Kyle, I am so happy that we've been treating you right there. I appreciate it. You've told me that and your mother's told me that. That's fantastic. At this point, I don't have any more questions for you, but Miss Mosley is going to have questions for you probably.
Yes. Does the state have any questions?
Yes. Kyle, when this evading arrest charge happened, you were at your trying to get into your parents' house, right?
Yes. As per my UPS training, I'm trained to go from the vehicle to the front porch very quickly. And so I think training mode just kind of kicked in. But,
sure. But you have a active criminal trespass warning from your parents' house, right? That was why you originally got picked up on that charge.
As per previous documentation, yes. But keep in mind, more than 200 times during the year 2020 that I went there to the front porch and gave Patrice a hug and then slept on the front porch. So some of that documentation from earlier might be kind of out of date, but I do comprehend the notion that there was a previous report, and that's why that might have occurred the way that happened.
Why was there
when
a
they check
criminal
on their
trespass there?
Yeah, when they check on their laptop, when they're in the cruiser, they just see like something in monochrome about previous reports real quick, and they're
Kyle,
trained to do what they do.
Thank you. When were you diagnosed with schizophrenia? It was in 2014, right?
You know, let's go ahead and let's focus on the first opinion there. That's my self-opinion. I'm in a good mental health and good emotional health. I don't know why they said what they said about me earlier, but I'm actually, you know, all good. You know what I mean?
Are you currently being prescribed and taking medications in the jail?
Nope, but I've been doing a multivitamin every day, every morning. And a multivitamin will give you what you need to normalize. And then you'll come back into balance.
Have you ever taken any medications though for your schizophrenia? No?
Yeah, I just use a multivitamin every day and I'm normal.
You realize that the jail has put you on your mental health assessment under a mental health watch. Is that correct?
Yes, I think so. They've been
And do
checking
you know
on me.
what that means?
I'm not exactly sure what that means, but they've came to visit and they've checked on me nearly a dozen times, and I've been here for about 48 days.
Do you think that you need mental health treatment and help for your schizophrenia? And if released and you do this 14-day treatment, and will you've done previous treatment before, and has that helped?
I visited several different places before, and they've given me all kinds of help, you know, with shelter and meals and clothing and bedding and everything, meeting all of my needs and everything. And even some other stuff like for emotional well-being, like counseling and education. But all in all, I got to tell you, I feel really excited to get back out there and become gainfully employed. You know, I went back
Mr.
to work
Becker?
on March 2nd. Yeah.
Where are you going to go work?
Well, on March 2nd, I went back to work for my most previous employer, doing advertising for Liberty Tax Service. And previous to that was working for United Parcel Service, UPS.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm excited to get back out there and become gainfully employed again. I'm not exactly sure what company, but I do have a pretty good resume and I am a good worker.
Mr. Becker, you were recently released from Haven Hospital in Frisco, right?
Yes, that's correct.
What was that? What treatment did you receive there, or why were you there?
I think that was for emotional well-being. I think that was just to be in a nice place and just, I think they were just observing something about social norms, you know?
And right after you got released from this facility, you went ahead and picked these new offenses, right?
What's that?
Right after you got released from this facility, you went ahead and picked up these offenses.
Yeah, I mean.
Were you supposed to do any follow-up treatment after Haven Hospital?
I think they referred me directly to LifePath.
Okay.
And as for that, I was scheduled for a video conferencing with LifePath on Friday, March 5th at 1:30 p.m. But I missed my email for that.
Right. But it's your testimony here today that you don't think you need to take any medication for your schizophrenia, or that you really need any help for that.
Not at all. I'd say I got all the help I need. I'm normal. I'd use a multivitamin every day, you know, and I feel like I'm getting younger every day, you know?
Okay. The state passes the witness.
Anything else?
Briefly, Your Honor?
You rest?
No, briefly.
Okay, go ahead.
Hey, Kyle, I just want to remind you of our conversation. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you, Shelly.
All right. You've never been diagnosed with schizophrenia until you were put in Collin County Jail. Isn't that right?
I don't I do not know. I do not know what other people may have said or what they may not have said, but my own opinion is that I'm normal.
Right? When I mentioned it to you and your mother, you both said you'd never had a diagnosis. That doesn't sound right. And I'm talking in double negatives. That's not cool. Oh, okay. And let me ask you about this. On the trespassing charge, you and I talked about it as well as you and your parents. That trespassing order was in 2015. Is that right?
Is that right?
I think it's right, but it was a long time ago. I think how you put it is it was a long time ago.
You know, if I may just to this point, that's like kind of on a day by day deal. Like if I'm welcome at my parents' house or not, you know?
Well,
that's kind of like, did they invite me to visit them that day or not, about that. And the world's a big place. There's plenty of other places to explore.
Did you and your parents talk about the fact that the police told you it was no longer operative after 1 year?
About a report from a earlier report was effective only for that duration. No, but that sounds like something that makes sense, you know, because, you know, people talk, things change. That report was from, you know, several years ago. But like I said, as per my behavior during 2020, and as per, you know, my usually meeting with Patrice on a daily basis there, that, you know, I thought everything was perfectly okay.
That's okay. You've answered my question. I guess what did you know your parents wrote a letter to the McKinney Police Department and showed up at the McKinney Police Department and wrote the Collin County ADA a letter saying that criminal trespass order was for 1 year and they were told it was dead in the water and they weren't worried about it and they were unhappy you'd been picked up on it? That's in everyone's files. Didn't we talk about that?
Oh, I didn't know that they had pursued such recourse. I guess that, you know, that's what I'm saying is those are sometimes Patrice and Kyle seem to be like my only friends.
You're
like,
right.
That's who I always call, but you know, I always call them and I always count on them, but I'm learning that I have even more friends out here.
They're in your corner from what I can tell. Okay.
Yeah, they're in my corner. There you go. That's right.
All right. Well, when you and I spoke, I asked you about your schizophrenia diagnosis that you got in Collin County Jail. And you don't remember telling me you had never been diagnosed with that before, because that's your mother's recollection as well.
Do I remember telling you that I did not remember ever not being diagnosed with that? Kind of, sort of. I do recall our earlier conversation about the negatory in regards to that.
All right. I could try and make it simpler. You told me you'd never been diagnosed with schizophrenia before. Does that sound right? Never had a diagnosis before.
The first time for everything, sister.
All right. I passed the witness. Thank you, Kyle. I like you. I'm in your corner.
Does the state have any more questions?
No, Your Honor. We just would request to read in the criminal history.
Let's let her rest first. Does defense rest?
Do I need to call Ms. Fox?
No.
Okay, because I haven't done that before, so sorry.
Yeah. It doesn't usually happen.
I'll rest.
You just want to read in the criminal report?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right.
On November 16th, 2007, the defendant was convicted of possession of marijuana less than 2 ounces, received deferred adjudication for 6 months. On April 21st, 2010, the defendant was arrested and convicted for fleeing from a police officer where he was put on probation for 9 months. On August 8, 2013, the defendant was arrested for public intoxication. On August 10th, 2014, the defendant was convicted of resisting arrest, and he received 20 days in jail as his sentence. On, let's see, on August 10th, 2014, in connection with the resisting arrest offense, he also was cited for a Class C liquor violation. And then we have the current 2 offenses, Your Honor, and Ms. Stevens is correct that the criminal trespass has been dropped by the arresting agency.
Okay. Anything else?
Only argument, Your Honor.
You rest and then.
Yes,
you
state
can
rest and
argue.
close.
Right. And you have an argument?
Yes, Your Honor. We oppose the mental health bond in this case because we do not think that the defendant is actually a good candidate for it. We think there's sufficient good cause to show that the defendant is unaware of the severity of his own condition. His mother stated on testimony that.
We just lost the defendant.
Oh.
There's back. Hang on. Welcome back.
All right.
Sorry about that.
All right. All right. Go ahead.
Thank you, Your Honor. There's sufficient evidence to show here that the defendant's unaware of the severity of his condition. He's been in and out of different programs. He's been in and out of different hospitals, and he continues to either reoffend or he doesn't continue to follow up with any sort of medication or any sort of counseling that has been afforded to him. Your Honor, his mom said that he was diagnosed with schizophrenia back in 2014. He is currently on a mental health watch in the jail, although he claims that he doesn't think that he has any issues and he doesn't need any help. Your Honor, if he gets out, there's a lot of doubt that he will actually be able to comply with the court's orders on this case. Because after he was just recently released from Haven Hospital, that's when he picked up these new offenses. Your Honor, because he's on a mental health watch and because he does not realize the severity of his condition, despite all the different opportunities he's had to get treatment, we oppose this bond. We don't think that he will be able to follow through, despite his parents' testimony. Sounds like he's in and out of their house the entire time. He comes and goes when he wants to. And until he wants to get help, Your Honor, the safest place for him to be, so he's not a danger to the community or himself, is where he is. And for that, we ask you to deny his mental health bond.
Well, I'm going to give him a bond because I think we're going to put him in the CRU unit, and that's a 2-week kind of intensive supervision type program. I'll tell you, Kyle, that you probably need to take medication. I'm not a doctor, but if the doctor prescribes medication for you, you need to take it because they're going to do what's best for you, and you're not going to complete the CRU unit without doing what the doctors say. So, there's been mention of competency and those types of things. Whenever those types of allegations are made, then there's usually a need for some sort of medical treatment. So, and medication. So anyway, I would encourage you to do what the doctors say, but obviously if you don't do what the LifePath folks say, you're not going to complete the program. You're not going to successfully complete the program, and it's not going to result in your case going away. Yes, sir.
I have a question. I heard some of the previous proceedings there, and if I was just to be treated the same way as they were, kind of like saying, hey, I acknowledge those 2 charges from March 3rd, 2021. And is that, this is day number 48 of detention. Just curious, like what would that be? How would that pan out?
Well, your lawyer can talk to you about all that. I mean, that's something that she's trying to get you through this with a better result than just pleading out and going to jail and doing a little bit of jail time. So this is what she's doing for you, and she can talk to you about all that, but that is an option that y'all can talk about at some point. But for right now, what we're gonna do is put you on bond and expect you to do the LifePath program. Okay. What that means?
Yeah.
You'll have
to call. Feel like that's what's best. If you feel like that's what's best, and I just got to say, I'm very, very thankful because as per my verbal request, I requested a multivitamin, and they provided a multivitamin on a daily basis here. And that's really helped me. Like, I feel good. I feel okay.
Well, good. Tony's going to explain to you how all this works here in a second. Go ahead, Tony.
Okay, Kyle, my name is Tony, and I am the case manager for anyone who is on mental health bond. I have set up with LifePath to pick you up this evening at 5 o'clock and take you over to their EOU CRU unit, which is a 14-day program, okay?
Okay, do you know, well, I don't think I've ever been there before. Is that here in McKinney?
Yes, it is. And they will stay in contact and let me know how you're doing and whether or not you're taking your medications and those type of things. And they'll also help you get established in an outpatient services. And at that time, they'll also set up so that you and I can call on a regular basis and talk with each other, okay?
Okay, so I'll be in touch with Tony. And you guys want to have another video conference like here in 14 days? Is that what you want to do?
No, LifePath and I will talk to you later about that, okay?
Yeah, if you successfully complete the program, it's my understanding your case goes away. And once your case goes away, this bond goes away. But you can continue on with LifePath even if you're not on bond, okay?
Okay.
So all your other requirements regarding us are going to be gone once you complete your program. But LifePath is out there. It's in our community. They help everybody, especially when they need medication, and you might fall in that category. Okay. Good luck. Thank you all.
Okay. Thank you guys for your time and consideration. Just wanted to let you know I'm okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Give me a
Have a
call,
nice day.
Kyle.
All right, it's his turn.
Hi, thanks, everybody.
Thank you,
See you
Shelley.
later.
Absolutely. Bye now.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Mr. Baxter.
Thank you, Claire Mosley. And hopefully I'll talk to Tony Fox at some point.
Thank you, Judge
Thank y'all.
Baxter.
Good luck. All right. Sorry y'all had to wait. Mr. McClure, is that right?
Yes, sir.
All right. And this is Jason Cord McClure, and it's a assault, impeding breath charge. And I do have a copy of the mental health assessment. I will consider that for the purpose of this hearing. Did you want to call your client and testify?
I do, Your Honor. And also I have one other witness, sir.
Yeah, and he's online right now. Mr. McClure, if you would raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm testimony about to give me the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I think we're going to start with Miss Jason McClure. Or?
Yes, sir, please.
Okay.
Jason, you can go ahead and take off your mask if they'll let you, sir.
Yes, sir.
May I proceed, Your Honor?
Yes.
Jason, would you please introduce yourself to the court?
Jason Cord McClure,
And how old are you, sir?
33 years old, sir.
And you've been confined in the Collin County Jail since, I believe, April 6th of 2021. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And you understand the charges that you have been accused of. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And the alleged complaining witness in this case is your wife. Is that right?
That is correct, sir.
Prior to your incarceration, were you working, sir?
No, sir.
And how do you make a living, sir?
I received disability from the government, sir.
Through the Veterans Administration?
Yes, sir. Through the Veterans Administration.
And what is your disability rating?
110% permanent total disability.
And what is your disability, sir?
PTSD, a traumatic brain injury, crushed lower vertebrae in my spine, crushed vertebrae in my neck, a dislodged shoulder, and impingements in my knee. In the left knee.
And I believe you served in the military from 2006 to 2010. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And you were a United States Marine?
Yes, sir.
And what was your job duty?
Marine Special Operations Battalion. I was a specialist in special ops.
Okay. You were what is commonly referred to as MARSOC. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
When you got out of the military, did you seek the help of the Veterans Administration?
Yes, sir, I did.
But in candor to the court, your use of the VA has been on and off. Is that correct?
That's correct, sir.
When you go to the VA, you have a psychiatrist, correct?
Correct, sir.
And you have also a psychologist. Is that right?
That is correct, sir.
Your ability, part of the problems with that was you were having difficulty with the medication. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And you didn't like the way the medication made you feel.
Yes, sir.
I shared with you as part of the mental health bond, there are certain requirements. You understand that?
Yes, sir, I do.
And that is one, to seek treatment,
Yes, sir.
to seek mental health treatment.
Yes, sir.
Two, take your prescribed medications.
Yes, sir.
And three, show up when you were supposed to.
Yes, sir.
We have been communicating with the Veterans Administration about you. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And they have a specific PTSD program that starts in June. Is that right?
That is correct, sir.
And this PTSD program is a 3-month program. Is that your understanding?
That is my understanding, sir.
But prior to even being accepted or considered for that program, you must be stable and be stable on your medications.
Yes.
And if this honorable court would grant you a mental health bond, you and your family will coordinate to get you back on track and seeing your psychiatrist,
Yes, sir.
your psychologist,
Yes, sir.
and to take the necessary medications that you need to take.
Yes, sir.
Are drugs an issue in your life, sir?
No, sir.
Is alcohol an issue in your life?
No, sir.
If someone was to ask you, what do you abuse or use too much of, what would that be?
Red Bull.
And how many Red Bulls would you drink a day?
6 to 8.
And your family has been very supportive of you. Is that correct?
That is correct, sir.
And one of the things that your family does not want you to do, because they see a change in you, is that when you abuse Red Bulls.
That is correct, sir.
And if this court made an order that you not take any energy drinks, would you follow that, sir?
Absolutely, sir.
Prior to your incarceration, where were you living?
At my parents' house, sir.
Okay. And who lived in your parents' home?
My father, my mother, my wife, and I.
Okay. And you and your wife have been married for how long?
2 years, I believe, sir. Just over.
And as a result of this charge, an EPO was issued for 60 days or 61 days between you and your wife. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And at the time the EPO was issued, she was living with your family.
That's correct.
Is her living arrangements changed?
As far as my understanding, yes, sir.
and she no longer lives there.
Yes,
If you were released, where would you go?
to my family's house, sir.
And your family for primarily is also your transportation as well.
Yes,
Jason, do you want mental health help?
yes, sir.
And why is that, sir?
So when I look somebody in the eyes and have a conversation, I don't feel despondence between the two people. It feels like a human connection. Having a conversation with somebody would be a desired outcome.
You want to feel that connection again?
Yes, sir. The human connection between two people and they talk.
Prior to your incarceration, have you ever been charged or convicted of any crime over a Class C misdemeanor?
No, sir. Not to my knowledge.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I pass the witness.
Does the state have any questions?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. McClure, what is your parents' address?
11668 Wild Rose Lane, Anna, Texas.
And
7540.
is that the address that you plan on returning to when you are when you're released?
Yes, ma'am.
You realize, though, that that is a prohibited address, so there's currently an emergency protection order out against that address itself. There's an EPO out for your wife, but also against that prohibits you from going to that address.
Yes. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So if you are released, you cannot go to that address.
Right.
And so if you can't go to that address, do you have another plan of where you would go?
Yes, ma'am. At that point, I would go to my property in Bonham.
I'm sorry, where?
To my property in Bonham.
In Bonham?
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned your attorney asked you about any previous arrests, but you currently have a pending Class C assault. It was originally a family violence assault that occurred on November 25th, 2020 in Fannin County. Is that right?
That's correct.
Who is the victim in that case?
My father.
Your father?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. What happened there?
We were on the side of the road having a conversation, and he encroached my space, and I pushed him back, and he fell backwards, ma'am.
Okay. And then he called the police?
Not to my recollection. I don't know. They did show up, but I don't believe he called them.
Okay. And you said that you returned from being in the Marines in 2010. When were you diagnosed with PTSD?
2013, I believe.
Okay. And your experiences in Afghanistan have made it really hard for you to function in normal society. Is that correct?
Yes,
ma'am. Yeah. And you're currently under a mental health watch at the jail. Is that right?
That's correct, ma'am.
And do you know what that means?
It means they check on me.
And do you have any, I know this is a personal question, but any sort of inclinations to harm you or harm yourself or harm others?
No, ma'am.
And in regards to this particular assault that you're charged with right here and right now, have you had any contact with your wife?
No, ma'am, I have not.
And this isn't the first time this has happened with your wife or your family, right?
I'm going to object to the line of questioning here.
Sustained.
Mr. McClure, you stated that you currently are not working. Is that right?
That's correct, ma'am.
Okay. Do you have any plans on obtaining employment when you are released?
Yes, ma'am, I do.
And what would that be?
To make spurs and knives.
Okay.
leather work.
No further questions for this witness.
Anything else from the defendant?
Just briefly, sir, your 100% disability check, how much do you receive monthly?
$3,100.
Thank you very much, sir. I pass the witness.
Anything else from the state with this witness?
No, Your Honor.
Call your next witness.
Yes, Your Honor. We'd call James McClure.
I think we swore you in when we swore on your son, but go ahead.
May I proceed, sir?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. McClure, would you please introduce yourself to the court?
James Clark McClure IV.
And you are the father of Jason, is that correct?
Correct.
And you were present during your son's testimony and heard his testimony, correct?
Correct.
And you live in Anna, Texas, is that right?
Correct.
And who lives at your residence now?
At this point, it's just myself and my wife.
Okay. And did Jason's wife previously live there?
She did.
And when did she move out?
She moved out the same day that Jason was apprehended and taken to Collin County Jail.
And does she intend to return?
Not at this time, not as long as the EPO is in place.
And one of the reasons she left there was to allow a place for Jason to return.
Correct.
Jason mentioned that he has property in Fannin County in Bonham. Is that right?
Correct.
But it is a fifth wheel with no electricity and no running water out there, correct?
He has ability to get running water, but there's no electricity attached and no sewage attached.
You know your son better than any of us on this video here today. Prior to his service in the United States Marines, did Jason exhibit the mental health issues that he had?
Not at all.
Since he has been home since 2010, have you seen him struggle with his mental health issues?
His mental health issues have got continually worse. Yes.
Your son is a very proud man, is he not?
He is.
And what he did for his service in this country, a very small percentage of people that serve in uniform do what he did.
Absolutely. Correct.
And it's been hard for him to address his mental health issues.
Correct.
This is the first time he's ever had any real consequence associated with his outburst.
Correct.
Have you talked to him since he's been incarcerated?
I have. I visited twice now to the Collin County Jail.
And I meant to cover this with your son, but he shared with you that he is now receiving some form of psychotropic medications. Is that correct?
He informed me that they have put him on Zoloft. Correct.
And do you think your son realizes the importance of his mental health and the need for the psychotropic medications?
I believe he has, yes.
He has the opportunity to probably get some of the best care for someone with post-traumatic stress disorder through the Veterans Administration. Is that something you want to see your son receive?
I do, most definitely.
Some questions were mentioned about you and your son having a disagreement that led to a Class C misdemeanor that happened, I believe, in November of 2020.
Correct.
After that incident in November 2020, up to present, did you and your son have any other conflicts?
No.
And the conflict that stemmed this was you trying to encourage him that he needs help.
Absolutely.
I'm sure this breaks your heart having to talk about the bad things about your son and us trying not to overlook all the positive things that he's done with his life and for our country.
Correct.
Are you asking this honorable court to consider him for a mental health bond?
I am.
And are you and your wife willing to serve as third-party custodians of your son?
We absolutely are.
He will need you and your wife to get to and from Bonham Domiciliary, the VA. Is that correct?
That is a true statement. Yes.
I'll pass the witness. Thank you, sir.
Does the state have any questions?
Not for this witness, Your Honor, no.
Anybody else? Anything else from the defendant?
No, Your Honor, we rest.
Anything else from the state?
Yes, Your Honor, we would offer State's Exhibit 1, which is the PC affidavit for this case, and then would request to read in the defendant's criminal history. It's very short.
And I have the Exhibit A, and I am going to consider it for the purpose of this hearing, and you may read in the criminal history.
As mentioned, Your Honor, on testimony, the defendant currently was arrested on November 25th, 2020 for a family violence case that was then dropped to a Class C misdemeanor, and that is still outstanding at the time of this offense. That we rest and close.
Any argument?
Yes, Your Honor. But we do understand, and take into consideration the defendant's background and to have sympathy for the defendant. The underlying allegations in this case and for which the offense for which he has been arrested on are very severe and are good cause enough and sufficient good cause enough, Your Honor, to deny this bond. He currently has an EPO out against the exact address to which he plans to go live with his parents. Your Honor, the defendant has nowhere else to go. He cannot go live at this address with his parents. He cannot have any contact with his wife. The only other housing option he has is in Fannin County in a place that has no water or no running electricity. He has stated on cross-examination and stated in his mental health assessment that he cannot function currently right now in general society. Given the violent nature of these acts, the violent nature that he poses to the community and also to the victims in this case, we ask that you, in his lack of ability to be able to find a place to live, to commit to any sort of mental health treatment at this time, Your Honor, those reasons we will ask you to deny this bond.
The program with the VA, you said it's 3 months?
Yes, it's an inpatient program. It begins in June. I've been working with Dr. Gibbs, who's the VJC Veterans Justice Coordinator, and trying to establish and get him to this place that he cannot be considered for the PTSD program unless he is out seeing his current psychologist and psychiatrist at the domiciliary. Okay. And the key is he's got to be mentally stable, and he's got to be on his medications before he begins the PTSD program.
How fast can you get the EPO modified?
Well, the way, in looking and doing some research, Your Honor, right now this court has jurisdiction. And this court has jurisdiction to, one, modify that EPO because it's associated with his underlying case. And we are not asking for the EPO to be modified regarding anything associated with the complaining witness in this case. The complaining witness left this residence because she knows this is the only place he can go. And she wants her husband back, but she doesn't want him back at his current mental health status. His family's all he has. And
well, what I would want to do is
no court would, I'm sorry, Your Honor. I was
I'd
just
like
gonna
get the EPO modified so that he can go live with his parents until he gets into the inpatient program.
in my fear of trying to modify it before this court granted something was that they wouldn't modify it unless there was some reason for him to be released.
Right. So what I'll do, I'll grant the bond subject to us getting the EPO modified. So I'll need an order to modify the EPO first, and then I'll grant the bond and we get them to the house, and that's probably the best way to do it.
You want me to send the modification order to you, or do I need to go through the?
Or we would hopefully like to have a hearing on that because we haven't heard from the complaining witness. We don't know what her situation is. If they're going to try to modify the EPO, then.
Well, it's not gonna be modified to take her out. It would only be to the address.
Right.
And if she's not at that address, I don't think it's gonna be a problem. Because she'll have the EPO as long as she wants it. Well, 60 days anyway, but then that's not gonna change.
I guess we just don't, Your Honor, we just don't know if she really is not planning on coming back to that address or what the deal was since they were all living there.
Yeah, I'm sure she left for a good reason. She right now probably doesn't want anything to do with that address. So, but what my plan is to go ahead and modify the EPO for the address only, and give him a place to live while he gets into this program. And if he's going to be in an inpatient program for 3 months, it's probably best for everybody. So, okay. But I'll grant the bond subject to us modifying the EPO. If that makes sense. Yes, Tony?
Are you actually going to sign the bond today? Or are you going to hold on to it until that EPO is taken care of?
I'm going to hold on to it.
Okay, so when I send out my coordinated release, I'll have that you have it denied at this time, and then I'll do a new coordinated release the day you sign the bond.
Okay. And as soon as we get that bond modified, the EPO modified, we'll get the bond signed.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'll try to have that to you within the next 2.5, 3 hours.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you very much, Your Honor.
Thank you all. Good luck. And when you are out, Mr. McClure, you'll need to talk with Tony every week. She's going to have a phone number in your folder. And
yes, sir.
You're supposed to come see me once a month. If you're in an inpatient treatment program, we don't want you coming to see me. We want you to stay in that program and get the treatment that program provides you, okay?
Yes, sir.
And do you want to tell them what's going on, Tony, how the program works?
Just real quick, when you do get released, you're going to find a folder in your property. In that folder is also going to be my card, and it'll have a phone number. I want you to call me so that you and I can talk about what's needed and what's necessary in order for you to stay compliant with the bond, okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Sounds good.
Good luck. We'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, sir.
All right. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Yeah.